Yeah, I'm making a video, I think the button's pressed. Yes, it is. Alright, cold. Winter. Yeah. Now I guess done. Yeah, so I can't even make the video. Life is too impossible. It just gets more and more impossible. Anyway, subjective, objective, Darwin's hamster guy. It doesn't matter in the end. People still have to make arguments. And what's the real difference between the arguments made by objective type style people, like there is absolute truth in the world, and the subjectivist? And ironically, I think the argument is pretty much, people compare the objectivists to the God botherers because they have some absolute truth they live by. But ironically, the argument is more like the subjectivists are saying nothing can be said unless you have this absolute proof. And it's just the necessary element. All you need is the beyond reasonable doubt kind of standard. You can't do it to some absolute standard. Alright, so the objective reality one is kind of stupid. There's no point arguing about whether this is snow or not, whether I'm in the universe, whether it's a matrix. All this doesn't matter. This is what we know. And, daydreaming about every possible imagined scenario that turns this into a fake is stupid. It's just a waste of time. So, it's a non-starter. So I guess that's how you say to that. It's a non-starter. I'm not going to live my life based on completely made-up cartoon characterizations of reality. So this is reality as far as I give a shit. I'm going to fight to the death in this world, not in some imaginary cartoon fairy tale bullshit place. So screw there's no objective reality or no reality, or screw that shit. So then we're stuck with this value stuff. And so this is where the subjectivists really show their difference, their distinction. Because they expect something like value to be material. They expect value to manifest itself in some way where I can just present a videotape, or I can show them a slide under a microscope and say, see, there's value. No, that can't be done. It doesn't have material form. Yeah, wow. But, ow. Damn, that was nasty. Ow, pricker in the nose. Ow. Ow. Look at the cat. Anyway, I just don't wish to be here anymore. I really don't wish to be here anymore. Anyway, what was that? Yeah, subjective. So, you can't materially produce value. You can't materially produce it. It's a concept. It's a concept. But it is a substantive concept. It is like the concept. It is like no other concept in the universe. It's the super concept. It's double infinity times a trillion. The best concept there ever concepted. So yeah, value's really fucking important to get right. And right. Oh, yes, there is a right. Yeah, there is. From the perspective of the all-knowing, possessing all knowledge of all circumstance, there is a truth that would be discernible, that would be logically deduced. Even this conversation inside my brain would be part of the all-knowing, and the all-knowing would see that as a dilemma. It is important to know value, that feelings are important, that this is important. Alright, so this is where we get to the whole, I think, the crux of it. The real substance of the distinction is that these people who believe in some sort of subjective value, like everybody just makes up their own value equation, and there's no truth to be discerned. All right, well, they do fall into two categories. I mean, one category says we can't know the truth, that there is a truth, but we can't know it. And the other group basically just says it's all made up. And that's it. So again, that to me is a non-starter. To say there's no value denies every core bit of my existence. Because my whole body is basically built making value judgments. It does it all the time. It's the fundamental nature of the damn thing. Is value judgments, is interpretations of reality that produce an effect in me that has a qualitative impact that is decidedly plus or minus kind of a deal, relatively speaking. So anyway, then we got the value relativists, the idea that value is some sort of just a subjective thing. It's just something you personally interpret the world. It personally affects you. You say, "Ooh, I don't like it. I like it," based on how it tastes. And I mean, this one to me is so philosophically immature. In my opinion, how can you possibly think value has something to do with these subjective tastes, these subjective interpretations? That doesn't make any sense at all. Because everything we desire is comparatively between people completely divergent in what we perceive value to be. So that doesn't have any logical continuity. So if you're going to call value subjective interpretation, well, then value fails. Value's not a concept anymore, in my opinion. Because these subjective interpretations don't mean anything. I mean, what makes me horny and what makes somebody else horny are just two different things, and there's no absolutes regarding beauty or good tasting or any of that kind of crap. Cute, kitty. No, that's kind of bullshit. But the fact that sentient existences have value states, well, now I think that's the game you got to play in. You concede that it's not what we value that's valuable, it's the fact that we value is valuable. The fact that our reflexive entity creates this conscious, sensation-rich experience that is value latent. Now that's value. So, I don't know. I mean, I'm basically really confining where the framing of this argument can take place, is that I don't think anybody can rationally talk about value without talking about the welfare of sentient beings being the generator of the value. And then all you have to figure out is what is the welfare of the sentient being, what they want or what they really need. Their welfare in terms of plotting, like, so this is where it gets a little complex, because I could subjectively want to live another 500 years or something. I can subjectively want something, and it could be demonstrated that wanting that is stupid, because what it'll mean is 498 years in a nursing home or some kind of crap like that. And so even though I subjectively want, I think it's a good idea. So what we think isn't necessarily in our best interest as a value producer. And so this is where it gets, like I said, it gets this is where the value equation gets opened up. Because it's not just about what you personally experience, it's about how you affect the world and how you affect the other sentience in the world. And that determines the value of some circumstance that you're in. In the end, if somebody says they value, let's say this Stoic crap, so they value having a good intention. Yeah, so good intentions are what's valuable. But I think it can be just demonstrated that all the good intentions in the world don't change the fact that you made a wrong decision. That you could have gone left or right, and good intentions took you in a direction where you chose wrong. So intentions aren't going to produce results. They have a tendency to, which makes good intentions good, generally speaking, but it's not what makes the product. The net result is all that matters, and intentions don't have a whole hell of a lot to do with it. It'd be nice if they did, but they don't, okay? You can be it's like a doctor. He can really be trying to do the right thing, and he just doesn't do it right. And, it doesn't matter that his intentions were good. I'm not saying he should be thrown in jail. I'm just saying the end result is all that matters. The net end is where the value is, and the value can't be gleaned out of intentions. But like I said, probabilistically, good intentions are better than bad intentions. I mean, bad intentions are more likely to produce bad results than good intentions. So, yes, I vote for good intentions, just that they don't mean anything really. The road to hell is paved with them and all that kind of crap. Where else? You've got a choice between two things, and you just choose wrong, even though you chose right intentionally. I mean, your intent was correct, but your knowledge wasn't consistent. Your knowledge didn't inform you correctly, and so your good intention was broken by bad understanding, incomplete understanding. Alright, so back to this question of how you distinguish the argument itself, which is the tricky, it's kind of hard to explain exactly how people would argue differently if they, I think it is. It's easy to explain for the value ethical question. For people claiming that value is subjective, what they're basically claiming is value is derived through what you feel in terms of how you feel about something, rather than the fact that you feel. Our opinions created by our guts, our intuition, or our reflexive conditioning, has no authority, has no credibility as a decider of value, as an interpreter of value. It's often crap. It gets you into these bigotries and prejudices and nonsense. It's glaringly pitiful as a value generator, and not as a generator, as a value determiner, assessor. So the fundamental argument would be is that the objectivist sees no use in talking about how you feel about a subject. It's only what you can logically discern regarding the subject. And so that would be one obvious distinction, is the subjectivist is arguing from conditioned responses, while the objectivist is arguing from discernible, consistent, reliable facts, reasonably, to a reasonable doubt standard, interpreted. I think something like that anyway. Yeah. I still didn't phrase that quite right. There's probably a better way to phrase this. This should be easy just to make this distinction between what you feel and why you feel it. The why you feel it doesn't matter. The what you feel is all that matters. And that's where the values generated is in the what is felt. So the way you assess the impact of your action is not in how somebody interprets it, not in how somebody thinks about it, but in how things are in terms of their experiential, conscious experience, how they're affected by it. What is the destiny in terms of sentience, net disturbed, net equations of balance between the harm and the comfort. And now that question is another level. I mean, that's another thing to be debated. But I mean, that's where the value is. We might not be able to know exactly how much a tortured individual is worth, or a joyful individual is worth. You know, how many of one you can buy with the other. Those are difficult to explicitly state. But I tend to argue that in the zero-sum context, if that's a premise that can be agreed upon, that it would all be fail, and would be levels of failure, that any exchanges would be negative. Yeah. I mean, there's no value to the positive experience. There's only value in preventing negative experience. Yeah, I mean, elevating somebody from one negative state to a higher negative state is essentially rescuing them from a negative state. And so, positive feelings are generated by elevating someone's state from a negative state to a positive state. But that in itself has no value to compensate for somebody else's negative state. It will not elevate them from their state to a positive state. So me feeling good because something's tortured elevates me from a negative state to a positive state. But it doesn't do the thing being tortured any good. It doesn't elevate their state. And therefore, it cannot compensate for their torture. So any downward state change imposed on something, anytime you put something in a lesser state, you're not going to be able to do anything for yourself of sufficient value to justify that unless you're going from a profoundly horrible state to a better state. So it has to be for some, in a way, a self-defense mechanism. I mean, a self-defense style value exchange, where you're taking yourself out of something like torture and elevating yourself out of torture to justify negating or putting somebody else in a lesser state. And it's all really about how high those migrations in state change are. And the higher you are on the plane of state, the closer you are to comfort, the less and less value weight differences make. So the differences are profound from the worst states to the less worse states, have much more value weight than the value exchanges from neutral states to high states of comfort or bliss. Shit. I don't care much for ice. Goofing off. I don't feel like working, so I'll just sit there in my truck and listen to the radio. I always wished I could get a job like that. It looks like somebody was throwing stuff into the pond, but it was kind of before it froze. I don't see any rocks or anything. Kind of an interesting patterns. Interesting pattern. Interesting pattern. I shouldn't walk on the side of this hill because swoosh, swoosh. Nobody picked up those branches. I'm surprised. Look, Nessie. Yes, Nessie. Oh, isn't that cute? She's frozen in the pond. Millions of years of swimming about just to be frozen in the pond. Anyway. I just don't want to be here today. So anyway, that's enough of the video. Glove off with the button and such. Until next time.